Abel Pacheco is the principal of 5T CRE, a multifamily real estate investing company. He is currently invested in over 800 units on both the passive and active sides. Abel is an investor that believes in taking action, and that actions come from confidence developed from competence, which is attained through education. His first major investment in real estate education came at a cost of $20,000, which he later found the course syllabus was incongruent to his investment goals. He later discovered alternative ways to get the education he needed that allowed him to scale from 8 units to over 800 units in a short 2-year period. In this episode, Abel shares how you can best maximize your returns on your real estate education, whether it be paid or unpaid. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we have joining us Abel Pacheco from San Antonio, Texas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Dion. Thanks for having me on board. And I appreciate everything you're doing, giving back and taking time to sow back in your community with some hopefully nuggets that help them in the future as well, man. Awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you joining and helping us, to do this and realize this dream. So, let's go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your background and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah. So I'm a Texas native. You can kind of see in this flag background here. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. I grew up near the beach, about 2 hours south of San Antonio, Texas. Had about 18 years there and about 22 years or half of my adult life in San Antonio, Texas. I'm married, have a couple kids, have a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. So I have a little extra motivation right now and just enjoying life. I am an IT sales professional for about 13 years and spent my adult career, my profession, helping other businesses get IT services, administration set up, and then helping other sales professionals have success in their arena. I was a sales leader for a lot of years as well. And so all of that background, that's my professional day, W-2 day job, working in and out every single day. And since 2008, I had been investing along, me and my wife alongside, and just putting all of our what we think of it as our active income, our W-2 day job income, and had been investing for passive returns, passive income through real estate. So we had some good runs. Probably one of my best runs was a 10x run from 2013 to 2016. We sold $57 million or acquired new business for $57 million from $5 million, 3 years before. So had this huge run and realized, man, as I kept performing and kept doing really, really well at work, the quotas get bigger and it's harder and harder to hit the same performance attainment when your quotas are stretching. And no matter what was going to happen, if I stopped working, that money was not going to earn more for me. It's really dependent on my W-2 income. So we realized that early on and had been investing in real estate since 2008. Right now, we are general partners in about 400 doors, 2 apartment complexes here in San Antonio, Texas, and Seguin. So it's right outside of, and then we're limited partner passive investors in another 400 doors. So invested in a total of about 800 doors, apartment complexes. And then we also have about 9 single family houses, or we just sold a couple. So probably we're at 7 right now. So
nice. Now I remember before we got on the call, you mentioned that you had started originally with some single families. So can you tell us about that transition from single family to multifamily?
Yeah, absolutely. So really the mind shift, the paradigm shift that occurred was right when I started about at 5 or 6 houses. I've always managed my own properties. So did the landlord thing, property manage, asset management. Have you ever, if you think about the portfolio, everything was me and my wife. And so when we worked that at 4 or 5 houses, it was okay. She had a full-time job. I had a full-time job. We could manage 4 or 5. But the moment we broke over to about 6 or 7, we felt the time crunch. And right in those years, we also had our now 2-year-old daughter was a newborn, or my wife was pregnant at the time. And really my time became so much more valuable to me with my little ones, and making sure my wife was good, and, making sure our family was good. So it wasn't as easy for me to, or the desire was not as high to answer the phone calls and try to help a tenant, or try to, when one tenant's leaving, trying to get into repair the house and get another tenant in. So that's what really kind of started it off, along with the fact that I didn't have enough money. As much as I was making in my day job, I didn't have enough money to keep going. Like, the banks on the single family houses, when you're at a rental property, they want 20% down, probably more right now in our pandemic time, but they wanted 20, and then they wanted 6 months of reserves on every single family house that you own, 6 months reserve payments, not invested in the deal. So you better have, multiply all your rents on all your properties, multiply it by 6, and that's how much they want you to keep in reserves, outside of the money that you're putting down. So it was really just, I couldn't keep investing in another one and have those reserves and do that. So, that's what kind of led me to multifamily. And the transition was one of, I would say, kind of three things. It was limited partner passive investing as my first real action. The second one was educating myself. And the third one was really getting a mentor, or multiple mentors and coaches. So those 3 things were what allowed me to kind of move over. And I know we're talking about the situation room, right, and the challenges. So I can kind of dive into some of those challenges, but let me pause and at least make sure I answer your question first before we keep going, Dion.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some of those challenges.
When we first moved to multifamily, it was just a couple of years ago. And, I realized I wanted to invest in my first deal. I wanted to own apartment complexes. I actually had that realization when I was much younger, but I never was able to overcome the personal fear. I don't know, it was huge. I'm thinking about millions of dollars, and the fear, that challenge to overcome, was probably the hardest thing. I read a Kiyosaki book. I read a follow-up book when I was like 26, 27. I'm 40 now. So almost 12 years later, I think I got a Ken McElroy Purple and Yellow book on, Guide to Apartment Investing, or something along those lines. But I never took action. I bought single family houses because I felt I could. I had the ability, the skill. I could, okay. But that fear to overcome was probably the first one. And really, I realized, man, there's no way I'm going to move into another investment unless I educate myself, unless I figure out how to overcome that lack of knowledge. And that's what breeds confidence. When you have competence in a subject area, man, you build your own confidence, and that's what allows you, or at me at least, to take action. And I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that are in that same kind of, standstill. It's fear holding them back. And really the fear comes from lack of knowledge. So, that's when my sister actually knew, she knows what I'm doing. She knows I was in real estate. And she goes, you know what? I signed up for this real estate package, and I paid for a weekend. It's free. I can take one guest. You want to come with me? And I said, absolutely. I'm in, right? So anything real estate, I was in. And I was still in single family 100%, right? But it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday package, weekend thing. And over that course of 3 days, I probably heard more terms for single family investing than I had ever heard before. And a light bulb went off, and I go, man, you know what? I've never paid for education. I thought I was doing things right because I had my 6 or 7 houses at that time, and more than my peer group, right? The people that I worked with and associated with. But I heard stories of people owning 50, 100, 1,000 doors. And I go, I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what it is, but I need to figure out what it is. And I heard all these terms and I go, well, I'm in. And by the end of the weekend, I was dropping $20,000 and I put it on my credit card and I signed up for a package. And that became my first real, I guess, investment in my own education, which I'm super happy I did it. Had I not done that, I'm not sure about the next multiple action that I would have taken afterwards. However, but my biggest mistake in that was that I didn't vet out that education. I approached this education program unlike any other $20,000 purchase that because I think my emotions were so high, right? If I was buying a car, I probably would have gotten reviews. I would have looked at other cars. I would have test driven a few different vehicles to make sure before I pulled the trigger. And, I didn't do any of that. I just came off so hot off that weekend. My emotions were blazing and I go, you know what, I need to do this. And I did. It was a year package. And I asked the question in class, do y'all do multifamily? Because I want to learn commercial. And they said, yeah, we absolutely have commercial classes and multifamily. And I said, all right, great. So I signed up and I didn't realize that about 95% of their classes and coursework were all single family.
Oh.
and only for 5% of it was commercial and multifamily. But
Wow.
anyways, through that process, I would say that's one of the biggest, situations I found myself in. If I had to look back on it, I would definitely vet some education out, make sure they're doing what you want to do, ask for referrals, look for reviews, trying to figure out and ask them for some kind of, a testing, a trial. I want to see the syllabus, if you want to call it, however you look at it before you jump in. I absolutely am 100% a proponent of paying for education. I have since signed up for 4 different programs that are in, multifamily or legal specific. I've dropped another 40 grand, so about 60 grand total in education over the last, 5 programs maybe in the last 2 years, and it enabled me to go from 8 doors to 800 doors, having the right education in a very short amount of time. So while it was a challenge and an obstacle for me to overcome, at the same time, it was absolutely worth it. I would probably do the same thing again. I would have probably spent the money in a little different ways, but that's just kind of how it goes. And I have to say thank you for my sister dragging me to that class. And so that's one. So let me pause here and see if you have any questions around this process.
Yeah, I do actually. You bring up a good point, especially with education. I know there are a lot of people out there that have differing ideas with regards to education. I mean, just generally speaking, I am personally a proponent of education, any education, formal education, education through seminars, all kinds of things. Now,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a lot of people may be concerned about are 2 things. One you brought up just now was how do you actually go about vetting, the education, like to kind of avoid being in the similar situation. That will probably be like one of the questions that may be on people's mind. And then the other thing is the price tag, like especially if you're just getting started. How is it that you can still get that education that you need, but you may not necessarily be able to come up with those funds? Because your result, that it really speaks to the power of the education. You said you went from basically 8 units to 800, right? And over the past 2 years. So that's really incredible. So what would you say to those things?
Yeah. So the first one on how to vet it out, I think you should vet it out just like any other purchase, big purchase that you're considering, whether it's a house, a car, a vehicle, maybe, just like a college, your kids are going to college. or you went to one recently and you try to figure out which one was best. And now that you're looking at it from a different set of eyes or different lens, it's how do I get the most return from my investment in this education? And the way I looking back on it, it's really not having, this is where you do not have fear of missing out, FOMO. So slow down. You decided you're going to take the action, and once you've decided to take that action, you're going to execute. So the only thing left between the decision and execution for you is doing the due diligence, just like you enter into an apartment complex purchase or any other real estate purchase. You need to do your due diligence and find out about the market. You need to find out about the comps. You need to figure out what your expenses are, your outside capital improvements, your deferred maintenance. You're going to try to figure these things out before you pull the trigger, before you send an education. And that is talking to people, maybe like an apartment complex, you kind of snoop around, say, hey, how do you like living here? Well, talk to some of the students, former students of the classes. Hey, you signed up for this package. You signed up for this course. You went to this seminar. You went to the weekend. You did the boot camp. What did you think about it? What did you learn? What were the best parts about it? Have you been to other education seminars? Have you done other programs? If so, who did you like best and why? What did they teach you? And you're asking these questions to maybe former students. You're looking on the internet for reviews. The beauty of today, 2 years ago, I had never thought of, or I don't even know if there were then, these really great podcasts that we're doing today on a subject of multifamily. I think 4 or 5 years ago, they were not around. A few years ago, maybe they started popping out, and now there's tons of them. So you can go to some of the podcasts, just like you're doing right now, and we're going to pick up these nuggets, and we're going to pick them up for free. So if you're spending money on education, you're trying to vet out who's doing the coaching, who's doing the teaching, what are they actually doing? Are they actioning themselves? If so, how? Do I need 100% expert level? Well, I like to have mentors and coaches in a few different areas. I like to have somebody just in front of me so that I know what the next couple of steps are. I like to have somebody way, super far advanced, 5,000, something crazy doors, so that I can look to potentially create a vision in the future. And then, I want to have those coaches, people that not only teach me, maybe somebody that will actually go do a deal with me. And the more of that vetting process that you're doing, you're asking those questions, and also don't be afraid to go to the person who's teaching the class. Like if you see a name and there, there's a ton of them, right? If you see a name, man, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a message, ask for a phone number, set up a time, call them, have that one-on-one conversation, ask them about themselves, their program, vet them out just like you would vet out any other purchase, especially a real estate purchase. Treat it the same way and do that due diligence, and you're going to find yourself, if you are in the position to spend that money to education to get it, you're going to be so much happier with the result, because it's going to be tailor fit for you, because you've taken the responsibility and the accountability to find out what you need and then go get it yourself. And that's key. If you're not in a position and you don't have any money, that's okay. I would say, because of the podcast position right now, you have the ability to write your own syllabus, and the power of Google search today is amazing. So, if you want to know about underwriting, you can literally go to podcast multifamily underwriting, and you're going to see all of the headlines pop up with all the people that talk about asset management, underwriting, raising capital, and you're taking that approach to it. It doesn't have to be blind. It doesn't have to just go listen to every podcast, because you're going to listen for an hour and you're going to find your 10 minutes a nugget or 5 minutes of nuggets that you really want. Well, go, be a little more prescriptive about how you do that, and write your topics that you're most interested in, and then search podcast multifamily for those, topics. Or if you're not multifamily, maybe you like single family or land development or whatever it is, right? then you can do the same, but just be prescriptive about it. And you can save yourself a good, good chunk of change. And I think the difference between that is, if I do that and it's free, it's going to take me longer to do that, to soak it all up, to figure it all out, as opposed to if I pay for it, it's like, it's more focused on exactly what you need to do to get your first deal, if that's the course that you're signing up for. So hopefully this helps, listeners and maybe your network and mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I was thinking of too, because you mentioned this a few times, was with regards to a mentor. And I think that maybe a lot of people might be thinking, well, number one, how do you find a mentor? And then number two, how would you describe like the relationship between the mentor and the mentee in this business? Because I think that maybe some people may have it, like take, for example, in your story, and I'm not saying this is what happened for you, but basically your result today is a direct result of what you did in your actions. Your mentor did not do that for you, right? So
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think some people may have some misconceptions here. So could you just tell us a little bit about that relationship, like finding a mentor, number one, and then that mentor-mentee relationship? What's that like?
Yeah. So when I found two mentors that I hire, I meet with, one I meet with weekly. I pay them, a good chunk of change, about 12 grand over the year. I meet with them every week. We talk about my goals, strategic and tactical. And then every week, it's almost an accountability check. Did you do those actions we talked about last week? And if so, why not? And okay, we're revising. Goals always change. They're always moving. It's a moving target. However, I knew my end year goal at the beginning of the year, and I knew what I was driving for at the end. And so I'm always trying to, stick to that. Now the quarantine time, or stay in shelter, whatever you want to call it right now, it's April 2020. So did alter my goals, right? I think I'm more realistic about what we can accomplish during this time and what I want to run into. But the goals are still there, and they've pivoted, they've changed. We're trying to be flexible with the time, but that's, what it is. It's the discussion about what I wanted to accomplish and how I'm going to do it. And then every week it's good strategy and tactics on what I need to do to accomplish that. Some good ideas are bounced off of each other, but ultimately the action has nothing to do with your mentor. It has everything to do with you as a personal individual. And if you can't take action, you should save your money. So if you're not going to be the action taker, the person that actually moves forward on these steps or these goals, past writing goals, save your money, go watch podcasts. It'll save you a world of cash. And then you can go get as much education. I've heard somebody say this, education without action is entertainment, right? And so that's what happens. But knowledge, you've heard the say, knowledge is power. Well, applied knowledge will change your life. And I think that's, what I'm trying to, regurgitate to myself and say, how do I do this? How do I keep actioning? Because when I got into my first deal, I realized with enough education, I did not know enough to go do this deal on my own. I did not want to be a general partner. I did not want to be the king guy leading everything as the main sponsor, because I didn't have enough knowledge to do so. I wanted to make sure my money was okay, much less everyone else's investments that I was going to put in the syndication. And I want to make sure it works myself. So another mentor, this is another mentor that I have, is actually doing deals. He's invested in 10 to 12 apartment complexes, 1,000+ doors. And when I went to him, I said, hey man, will you coach me? And he goes, well, I don't really have time to coach, but if you invest with me, you're an owner and you can ask me questions through the process. And I said, okay, I'm going to put my money in with you as a passive investor. And along the ride, sitting shotgun, you get to learn exactly what's happening through the process in a safe a safe manner, safe for my money. It was great for my experience. It was great for my education. And then my resume, that was my first 128 apartment, 128 doors apartment complex was ownership in that. And the action that it takes to do that comes with education. Again, confidence comes from competence. I would also not have been able to take that action had I not years prior taken other action in single family. Single family since '08, bought my first house, educated myself on, how do you buy a house? First time homeowner, right? Well, what are the programs? What are the loans? What are the lending? How much do you need down? What's your credit score needed? Just when we think about it, it's the basics. But man, you're building a foundation on your future. So you got to figure out, what steps did I take to get there? Okay, I'm going to go reapply that. A second deal, a third deal, a fourth deal, a fifth deal, all single family. But my equity was increasing over time. My cash flow was increasing. And so I started thinking about different ways to invest. And, I not on my first deal or my second deal was my 401k that I self-directed into a self-directed IRA and invested that in an apartment complex. But as my first deal as a general partner, I needed cash because you can't invest your IRA money into your own deal as a general partner. So where did I get that, cash to put in my minimum as a general partner? Just like I was asking, every other investor coming in, I took it from a refinance from my single family houses that I had built this portfolio up years prior. Action upon action, education upon education, reapplied. And, my mentor says this is what's called a OODA loop model, OODA.
Mm-hmm.
You observe, you orient yourself or process yourself, what's going on. You decide and you act. The first O, everyone observes what's going on. Everyone that has eyes or ears to hear what's happening, 100% of the people can say, yeah, people invest in real estate and they make money. Then the process or orient, the second O is, I understand how they're doing it. They're saving money or leveraging. 75% of the people understand how, they can orient themselves, but only the percentages goes way down, like 25% or whatever the number, decide that that's what they're going to do. So just being in that first 75% saying, I'm better than the rest. I've observed, I've oriented, I've processed myself, and I made the decision, does not make you an action taker. Only 3 to 4% of those people decide and then take action, the last A. And if you can do this OODA loop model again and again and again and just keep taking action, that's, I think, really the key. At least it was for me, and I have a feeling it's for a lot of people as well.
That's a really nice acronym there. I was also thinking too, with one of the, when you said that you had invested passively, and as part of that, basically he was teaching you about the syndication process, via your passive investment. So you're basically along for the ride and learning. I mean, that's actually a really great idea. You think about it, especially for people, like if they're thinking, well, I could spend $50,000 here for this course, or, it's like, well, I could put it into the syndication and, kind of get that hands-on learning, assuming they have some sort of like base knowledge, right? Not just throwing it out there.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that's important. You don't want to just invest 50K with anybody. And 50K is a baseline that I've seen in many multiple syndications. I've seen a couple of 35s. Mm-hmm. I've seen more 50s and 75K minimums. So you don't want to put your life savings. For some people, and for me and my wife, it was literally that was our savings. This is our life savings. It took us forever to get it, and we're entrusting it with somebody. We vetted out our partner, our mentor. We vetted out the market. We vetted out the deal. And those are the main three things. It's your sponsor team, the actual deal, and the market. And as a good passive investor, that's what you want to spend your time learning how to do, is analyzing the market and the sub-market of your actual apartment complex. You want to vet out the sponsor team. How many deals have they done? What's their success rate? What's their experience level? Talk to some of their investors, right? Ask them for referrals and references. The same thing. And then, you want to vet out the deal. Like, what are they buying and what's the business plan to turn it around? How are they going to force appreciation up? And if you can do that, you're going to be in a really great spot. And if you're a good limited partner, I personally believe, because this is the way I started with my own money, trying to figure out how to do it before I asked anybody else for money, was how did I vet this? And now I can teach others how to vet it themselves. And so I believe it also helps our investors become more educated, more, I think of them as active passive partners is what I really want. I want passive partners that are really active. Hey, how did you come to this? How did this happen? And, their questions also help me learn and educate myself on the next deal, on the future deal, on the one we're in. And, I think that's great. And the more that they want to go do, eventually I want to be a key principal in some of their deals once they're at a point where they're doing their own, and have this long cycle of success for all of us, right? So educate them, they go do deals, they need somebody to help them, they ask me for KP, and I'm ready. So that's I think it's very beneficial. I started as a limited partner before I went to general partner, and we were invested, me and my wife.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, just as a quick follow-up. So from there, that limited partner deal, how did you go about transitioning into the GP role?
Well, I used a path, and I think this has some merit for anybody trying to break into their first deal. I decided to go all in with one mentor, with one syndication team, with one crew that I believed, based on my interviews with them and my discussion with them. And I told them, this is what I want to go do. And they said, man, that's great. I support your goal. At the time, it wasn't, I'm going to mentor you and, meet with you once a week. It was not that. It was, I don't have any time, but if you invest the money, you're going to learn, by soaking everything in. And I said, okay, cool. But they knew I wanted to be a general partner. And so I talked to my partner. I got lucky because he's also my friend. I knew him through our professional career. We worked together in IT hosting at Rackspace. As my partner, Devin Elder. Went to his wedding. I know his family, yada, yada, right? So I did get lucky there. And I would say the part that you can recreate, though, is after you've vetted that person and the trust is built. Then if you like the market and you like the team, try to put some focus in investing in that same team. And if they will support you as, I eventually want to be a general partner on a deal with you after I've learned from you and how to do it, does that fall within your guidelines? Is that an acceptable place to be? Do you want to be a general partner with me at some point? And, I don't even know if I was that specific. I just said, hey, this is what I want to do, man. And he's like, man, that's great, man. Go do it. You can do it. And I said, well, I'm going to invest with you. I'm going to learn through the process. And he said, man, great. Now through that, I invested in once, twice. My wife invested. So through that process, we became better literal partners according to the IRS, your bank statements, your relationship on social, right? Is like, oh, I'm a partner in this deal. That's by definition, right? So, you have that association with somebody else's track record that's performing highly. Now I am a partner in 400 doors and 2 apartment complexes. Although limited, I'm still a partner. And so we start to take that resume experience and the desire and the fact that your general partner sees the action you're taking. We're at the same conferences. I'm at the front of the table, front of the room, taking my notes, learning everything I'm doing, and regurgitating, at online, or trying to help other people, trying to help investors. And really, I started doing a few things. I started introducing investors to him in advance before I was a general partner on a deal. he asked me, actually, would you like to co-host a meetup with me? I said, absolutely. So in advance, I knew I'm going to bring my network to him before I'm a general partner. And, that as opposed to this limited thinking where there's only enough investor money for me, there's only enough deals for me, that limited thinking, you need to expand beyond and have that abundant mindset where absolutely I can bring in my entire network. I can tell everyone about him, and it's only going to benefit us together because we're going to win. And my network naturally still wants to invest with me because they know and trust me, but they also like his expertise. The fact that he's done in 9, 10, 11, 12 deals, 1,000 some odd doors right now. And so that's kind of how it happened. It was the back and forth before I invested of what my goals were, what my intentions were for the relationship. It was the continued investing within one team, within one sponsor, in one market, because I love the market. I live here. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. So, anyway, so that's where we're investing. I took my own education. I paid for my own classes. I did my mentoring, coaching with someone else, like literally at the seminars and conferences. That wasn't, him. His was more like, here's the action we're taking. And I was getting the knowledge outside. And then it was the bringing other investors to him. And then it was, let's co-host a meetup together. And we did that monthly. And now it's during this shelter in place time, it's a live webinar that we've transitioned to. And so we are, taking that action. And I think, I truly believe he sees the value. He sees the contribution, the action taking that I've been doing, where I bet you he has a lot of people, in my opinion, that say, I want to go lead a deal. I want to go be on a deal. I'm sure there are a lot of people, and I don't know if they're taking the same actions that I have, but if someone took those actions with me, you better believe I'm going to say, man, you want to introduce me to some investors? That's great. That's awesome. You're investing with me once, twice, 3 times? Man, that's awesome. Let me give you some education. Let me give you some mentorship. Let me give you some coaching. And when you go find a deal, let me know, because I'd love to be on your deal. And I think it's a virtuous cycle. It's one that can be replicated wherever you are in whatever market with whatever sponsors or syndication teams that are in your area, to go from limited partner to general partner relatively quickly.
Mm. So what would be a key piece of advice you'd have for new people that are looking at getting started?
I mean, the biggest one is just overcome your fears, get education, and take action. And I'm a big faith-driven individual. I'm a Christian. I serve at church. I'm a deacon there, and I just I enjoy serving people, right? And for me, it's a faith thing. I know that if I do these things, that I know without a doubt that I can produce results. And it's the higher power thing for me. But even if you're not, that doesn't matter. It's the faith part to other people. And while it matters highly to me, where my faith comes from, for other people, they may have faith in something different. But if they have that faith and hope, and they believe that they can accomplish it, if they overcome fear, get education, and take action, the worst thing that's going to come out of that scenario, the worst thing, is you get some more education, and you've gone through the action, and you've learned what not to do the next time. If you keep applying yourself to that process over and over and over again, even if it takes you a few failures, you're going to come out with success on the other end. And I would say that's probably the most. It's really mindset, the education, the tactics, the strategies. Man, there's so much of that. But for a new person trying to get started, I truly believe it's more about your mindset, way more heavier weighted on that. And then once you've decided, take action, educate yourself. You're going to overcome your fears.
Mm. So do you have any book recommendations for people?
So I'll say Multifamily, and then I'll also say just a general book, right? If you haven't seen Rod Cleef's Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing, I think he's usually got it for free on the internet, like as a hey, come join my program and here's a free book, whatever, as one of those freebie giveaways to kind of bring you into his group. Even if not, I think I bought a second copy for like $7.99. It's really good. It's like detailed on all the tactics and all the knowledge and education for like your market, your sub-market, the types of classification of property, A, B, or C, description on each one, creative financing, bank financing, money, raising capital, syndication, SEC rules. Like, I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. It's not an easy read because it's like real deep depth of information. It's not one that you're going to be like, oh, I really enjoyed that book. It's like, no, you want to take that and say, what is a Class A property? Okay, I'm going to look at this and you get a definition of it. And so I think that's really good for somebody that's maybe trying to figure out, do I even want to invest in this world? It's a really good one. It's comprehensive. And then one of my old classics, like one of my favorite books, I love 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I think that's the one that will help you with mindset. I mean, it really does help you with, a different paradigm and how you're looking at things in your daily life. And once you realize that you control your own ability to, the way you look at the world, right? You control yourself, your mindset. You're accountable. You're responsible for everything that's happened to you. No one else, is in control of the way you view things. And the moment you say, you know what, I am in control of how I view, all the stimulus that happens around me. And if it happens to me, if it's positive or negative, it could be negative, but I control the way I view that. And, it could be positive. It could be for the better. It happened for a reason. And now I'm going to go move forward. I had an obstacle or a challenge, but I recognize that's, I'm going to have obstacles or challenges with every new opportunity. So if you control your outlook, your paradigm on life, then, no one is in control of you. No circumstances around you, whether you're staying at home, whether, you're in a crazy pandemic situation, and which we are. It's like, man, only you have the ability to say, am I going to take those circumstances around me and am I going to react positively or negatively to the situation? Am I going to shrink or am I going to grow? Am I going to go learn more? Am I going to take advantage of this opportunity that I have right now or not? And I think, that was what I got from Stephen Covey. There's some 7 habits that are really good. But I kind of took that from his book.
So how could our listeners get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah. Probably my website is the easiest. Let me give you my email and my website. On my website, 5tcre.com. So the number 5, tcre.com/invest. There's a landing page, and you can put your name, phone number, email address. You can include your goals. So I have an understanding of what you are trying to accomplish. I do work with investors. I do work with coaching students. I do work with individuals that are trying to learn a little bit more. So just put your goals there and we can set up a time to talk. And then also you can call me, email me. My email is Abel, ABEL, at 5tcre.com, just like my website. And then, feel free to reach out to me. We can set up a time to talk. So thanks a lot, Dion.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It was actually a very, very good conversation. I enjoyed it. And I'm sure that our listeners definitely picked up a bunch of golden nuggets here that you set out for them today.
Oh, good, brother, man. Thank you very much for taking the time to, like I said, give back. And, it's not easy doing these podcasts all the time and giving the content out for free. But your listeners, your network, your following appreciates it. And good job, man. Kudos to you.
Thank you so much.
Wish you a lot of luck in your path too.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Talk soon.
you.